Hey, good morning. There we go. All right. Hey, good morning. My name's Sherry McGravely, I'm with the Department of Environment and Conservation. This is Melanie Buchamp with the Department of Tourism. And let's see, we got two folks here from our committee today, I think. I'd like you to go ahead and stand up. Chris Neely with the Granville Music Hour, and then I believe Debbie Ball with Agriculture is here. I'm going to let you, yes, thank you. We'll let you take a look at just sort of the scope of people that we had. We have, you get a diverse group of folks when you do something like this. And so we made sure we had somebody from Johnson City all the way down to Memphis, and rock climbers and folks that run outfitters and agriculture and you name it. So I'm going to take a few minutes and go over the process. But first of all, I'm going to answer the one question that I know y'all all have and nobody's going to ask yet, which is as you all look down through the agenda, and you see that we have one item we're going to talk about, and you're going, slackers. No, don't judge. Let me tell you, when we get to the process, we've really spent a lot of time on getting to that one. So not only are we giving you the action item today and the what, we're going to give you the how, the why, how you're going to do it, and what it's going to look like. So we are going to present it wrapped up in a box with a bow on it today. So keep that in mind. But anyway, what I'd like to do is just kind of set the stage here with tourism itself. I mean, it's huge business in Tennessee, right? So $17.7 billion in tourism expenditures last year. It's a lot of zeros. But of that, 75% is with the top five counties. So what that means is we're very rich in tourism areas. I mean, we got a lot of big rocks to climb. We got a lot of water to swim and fish in. We've got a lot of agricultural, historical, cultural assets in counties all across the state of Tennessee that are really untapped at this point. Historical, cultural, agritourism, and creative assets that often go unrecognized. So what we really tried to look at is, as opposed to, and the analogy I like is about pie, because, instead of us all fighting over getting larger pieces of the same size pie, let's just make bigger pie. How about that? Jay, I know you would like that, right? Bigger pie? Yeah, well, I say you probably like pie. So here's what we did. We got together as our group. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. And what we really thought is, so how do we make that bigger pie, right? And so we don't want it to be about the expense of agritourism over state parks, over anything in particular. So we thought about that in terms of the connectivity. So we recognize the need to create a connectivity within these communities. We also don't want to make it about, it is about distressed counties, but you also have those counties that are at risk. And so how are we able to tie this all together so that it can truly raise the water level or create that bigger pie? And to do that in such a way that we're developing those, we're looking at those tourism assets that are already developed and being recognized in these communities, but also the ones that are undeveloped. To overall, you think about it, at the end of the day, it's about creating a worthwhile experience so that we're not only as Tennesseans wanting to get out and enjoy what we're so blessed to have, but that also that we draw other people in from surrounding states and area to stay longer and spend more money. So step one, and I wanted to really point this out because not only did we have a diverse group on the team, but our folks, and I have to give a lot of credit over here to our fearless leader who really made sure that there was a concerted effort to give everybody in the state that had an interest in doing so an opportunity to have their voice heard. And so there were surveys sent out to all of the distressed and at-risk counties to sort of do surveys. And so we got quite a bit of input, and that was step one. So step two, I think we did kind of like a lot of y'all did, was we broke up into committees because we figured we would come back with 4 or 5 action items, and So one being sort of outdoor recreation and conservation, that's in kind of a normal thing to break it up into. Arts, history, agritourism, and culture. And then the marketing and branding, because that's kind of a lot of the how you get people into this stuff. We further divided into subcommittees, sent everybody out on their way to come up with their projects. What we found, though, when we got back together, did I miss one? Nope. Okay. What we found when we got back together is all these projects kind of dovetailed back in together. And so what we decided is, you can have great ideas, and I heard some other folks talk about the implementation piece. You can have great ideas all day long, but until you're able to do something about it and get it on the ground and have it working, that's all it is. It's an idea that you don't want to end up going on a shelf. So now it comes down to where the rubber meets the road is, okay, that's a great idea. How are you really going to do it? And that's what we want to talk about today. So that's our project. How are you really going to do this? And it's around creating a funding mechanism that allows the creation of a state program to help rural and distressed or at-risk communities that would be sustainable. Develop the connectivity, will provide technical assistance and marketing assistance. So with that, I'm going to let the wizard over here come up and explain to you all how we're going to do this.
Good morning.
It's all yours.
Let's see here. All right, as Sherry said, we knew that funding was going to be a big part of this, and to really connect our communities with their assets, because what we found in the surveys is some knew their assets, some didn't, and a lot of them weren't being promoted. So that the sustainable side of that is very important, and then to create, again, a program that provides technical assistance, because these communities, while they have ideas and may know how to do them, the technical assistance and funding for that is what is really critical. So let's go to our scope. Our scope is a need for distressed rural communities to rediscover and embrace existing assets and developing new opportunities to engage in thoughtful tourism planning based on their strengths. And so that's what we identified through all of our subcommittees. And what we came, let's see, I'm missing a page here. But I want to define, let's take a step back and define what tourism assets are. I think, we have big assets in the state, tourism assets like Dollywood and attractions, but think beyond that. So our group really wanted to define what that meant, and I think this is really important. It's a wide range of community amenities, and recognize that rural communities may have a wealth of untapped resources, including but not limited to interesting geographic features, greenways, byways, waterways, and agritourism opportunities. Foodways, folkways, or work culture, treasured local ways of life that provide common identity, historic lands, events, people that lend distinctive heritage or pride of a place, and shared traditional, creative, and artistic practices or musical heritage, which we spend a lot of time on music, right? So we know that our communities are really rich in tourism assets. They just may not be tapped into. So our action item, number one and only, is what we're calling right now rural destination districts. So the objective is to develop a program designated and certified by the state where rural communities can identify, expand, and market the unique cultural and recreational assets that result in increased and sustainable economic prosperity for the community. And that's what these rural destination districts would do. We want to essentially help the counties identify and connect with those assets. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the benefits of these would be to the communities. It establishes positive relationships between community leaders, state and regional and federal organizations. It can stimulate the local economy, enhance local resources, foster community pride, which is very important, spark creativity and enthusiasm in community leaders. A lot of our communities, in terms of tourism, don't have a paid person to do tourism or to promote the area. So that enthusiasm within community leaders is really important. Stimulate new local businesses. We see that every day with with tapping into these natural resources that new businesses do pop up. So, and more opportunities for local entrepreneurs, local jobs, and many locally owned businesses. So, again, tourism is big business. The action I support on this, we felt like the Department of Tourist Development would be a natural fit for this. Other state agencies that we would certainly use as resources would be Environment and Conservation, Economic and Community Development, the Tennessee Arts Commission, Transportation, Revenue. But we also really wanted to talk about the local level because we see this as an opportunity to have a database of subject matter experts that would go into these communities and really help them see what their assets are and put those together. So our tourism partners may be chambers and the official tourism offices, county offices, but also we would tap into the arts and humanities, historical societies, and other regional organizations who could just be those subject matter experts and help us with that, whether it's through an advisory committee or just a database of help. So what our committee wanted to really delve into is how would we fund this for these communities? And would we only talk about the distressed, or would we talk about the at-risk, and how many could we actually help with a program like this? Because we know that everybody wants funds, and you've got to start somewhere. So what we came up with is what we think that we would, well, we know we would like to create this, but the creation of the Rural Opportunity Act for Reinvestment, which we are calling ROAR, which is essentially reinvesting tax dollars into qualifying communities to be specifically spent on tourism. And we have models similar to this, but they're not going back into tourism. And, there are always very good intentions on the dollars that are spent, and we know that tourism is low-hanging fruit. So what we want to do is come up with a plan where those dollars go back into developing tourism. So this was proposed within our group, and we worked on it and looked at it a lot of different ways. And what we did was we think that a portion of the sales tax into the state could go back into these communities. And so for the sake of presenting today, we looked at 0.5% on these counties, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. But when we looked at the distressed counties, we realized that's only 21, and there were a lot of counties that would not benefit from this who really, really need it. So then we looked at tier 3 at risk, and then we saw there were some more communities left out that are on our lowest end of the tourism economic impact, on our tourism economic impact report. So that's why we included counties under 12 million in sales tax dollars. So tier 4, here's what we're proposing. Tier 4 distressed, 0.5% of their sales tax with a floor of $25,000 and a ceiling cap of $90,000, because what we found in some of our very, very distressed counties, 0.5% would be like $6,000, which they would love, but they need more than that. So tier 3, we would scale it back. We'd still have that floor, but the ceiling, because this is strictly on tax dollars, not on the whole tier system. And then looking at the 12 million or less in sales tax dollars. And we would reevaluate this on a 3-year schedule, because this is not going to be a quick fix at all. I know this is going to be really hard to see, but what we did is we highlighted distressed counties by blue, tier 3 at risk in red, and white were the ones that were left out. And when we compared that to our economic impact report that we do every year, these white ones are in our bottom 20 in terms of tourism expenditures. So they need help too. So with this model, we're talking about 56 counties being helped. And I think we can do some really great things with these funds.
That's a big pie.
It's a big pie. We got a big ask. So this is just based on 2015 numbers. With just the funding mechanism, we're looking at 2.3 million. But here's what all that would fund. We rolled it up because we know that within the Department of Tourism, we would have to have a program manager for this. And what we hope in some areas it would allow them to have a paid person on the local side to be our champion and to help us with these projects. We would provide a program toolkit, which I've heard a lot today, so maybe we could roll that into another one of these other ideas. But really a playbook, because we can go in and help them define these culture or these districts, but what do they do with it once they've created it? They have to market it, they have to brand it, and we really have to get it off the ground so that they have something that we hope they graduate out of these tiers. And that's the goal of all this, get out of the distressed and at risk. And if they have a product that they can sell, then we're in a good place. So our metrics really quickly, our department does an economic impact report for every county every year. So that's already being done, and that tells us jobs created, sales tax, local tax, daily expenditures. So we have that metric in place. It'd be really easy for us to track once these are off the ground. And then in terms of our milestones, naturally the approval of our ROAR would be first, and then to develop the program further through our department, educate the communities on this program. We want the counties to adopt the idea, and of course asset inventory, we've heard that a lot today, toolkit. Capacity building and technical assistance is going to be very, very important for these communities, very important. And then develop a plan with our subject matter experts and identify those local champions and get them off the ground and then brand and market these. So that's it. It's a big one, but we feel good about it, and we would appreciate your consideration.
Okay, you win the prize so far. With one, right? Okay, let us bring our final presentation forward with agricultural entrepreneurship and small business. Y'all ready?
Ready?
Here we go.
You guys are ready? Yes.
So good afternoon. I can almost say that, kind of. Good afternoon. I'm Andrea Wilcox. I'm the Executive Director at the Kingsport Office of Small Business Development and Entrepreneurship in Kingsport, Tennessee, East Tennessee, about 5 hours from here. I'm also the Senior Business Counselor for the Tennessee Small Business Development Center. And I'm joined by William Donnell, who's the co-founder of the CO out of Jackson, Tennessee. We're going to be presenting to you today. But we do have our team, and if you're here today, we would like to ask that you stand if you're here today with the Ag Small Business team. Thank you so much for being here today. And Wisty, our facilitator, could not be with us today. Unfortunately, she had a death in the family and has to take care of that. But I really would like to commend her on putting together such a diverse team. I think many of the groups today said that they had a great diverse team. We truly had a big team, and the diversity was definitely there from, everywhere from race, ethnicity, age, different backgrounds, different parts of the state. So I think we were truly represented. I loved working in this team because I felt like everybody could participate comfortably. So there was nobody sitting back. Everybody was able to contribute and get in there. And this was a very passionate group. The passion comes out when you have that diversity, too. People are free to speak, and they get everything off their chest. So the process was similar to what many of the groups have done. We had several face-to-face meetings. We had some phone calls, and we had a lot of email, didn't we? We had a lot of email. And we started out, too, with a great number of ideas from all of the people. We had about 44 ideas to start out with, and we've culled that down to 5 proposals that we're going to share with you today. And the main themes, as you can see on the screen, access to capital, access to markets, educational and technical assistance, PR and marketing, legislation, and policy. And that's what our ideas are revolving around. So the first proposal is for Tennessee Made, and William is going to talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. So Tennessee Made, if you guys are familiar with the Made in America or Made in USA program, you guys have, I'm sure, seen those labels or have even sought out those labels because they are a symbol of quality. They're also a symbol of pride for us as Americans. So we wanted to come up with a program that would be similar to that is Tennessee Made, that shows products that are created here in Tennessee. There's already some great programs that are already out there, like Pick Tennessee Products. There's also Mastered in Tennessee. We think these do a great job of promoting our state. And so we wanted to expand on those and make it where it's not just products that are created in Tennessee, but even services. So we're seeing it as a program that would be very inclusive rather than exclusive. If the product is made or created or the service is done here in Tennessee, then we want it to be Tennessee made. So that means that it would be anything from a Nissan Titan pickup truck to a visit to Dollywood, or even a Ripley tomato that was grown. All of these things would be Tennessee made. So we want to create a master brand, something that would build on the programs that we already have that are out there. And Tennessee is really kind of already known for our artistry and for our creativity and also for the quality of our craftsmanship. And so when you talk to people that are outside of Tennessee, or especially when you talk to people outside the United States, there's two things that they always mention with Tennessee, and that's going to be Elvis Presley and Jack Daniels. And both of those things would be Tennessee-made products. We want to expand that and bring that same recognition to all different kinds of programs, products, and services that are there. So this is going to provide pride of ownership for Tennesseans, and then also that mark of quality for those outside of the state. We do want to make sure that it's going to be effective, so we've got some success metrics that are up there that we can look at. We want to have a database that shows all of the companies and products and services that are participating in the Tennessee Made program. And then we're also going to have a public dashboard so that you can see those programs, you can see those services and those products. So that is the Tennessee Made program.
And the next proposal is for rural education and technical assistance. And this is what I have the pleasure of doing every day when I'm working at the Kingsport Chamber of Commerce. I've been working in this capacity for the past 10 years. So I've had an opportunity to work with over 1,800 small business owners and entrepreneurs over the course of that time. And what we have found in our discussion is that we have a lot of technical service providers. We have a lot of agencies that are offering help for entrepreneurs and small business owners. There's a lot out there, and we can assume that all of the entrepreneurs are being served, but we know that that's simply not the case. We're not reaching everybody that we would like to reach. You know, often I sit down with entrepreneur and they say, "Oh, I didn't know you guys existed." And you hate to hear it, but it's just the truth, you know. So we have to collaborate and team up so that we can reach more people with this programming. The first thing that we need to do with this proposal is we need to do a gap analysis. We don't want to assume that we know what the entrepreneurs and small business owners need or want, so we want to ask, and so we would conduct an analysis for that. And then we would also want to create the guide. So when I booked my hotel on this trip, I used booking.com. I didn't whip out the spreadsheet trying to look for a place to stay tonight. So the guide would be similar to that type of app or website portal. And then we need to create awareness for the existing service providers and agencies that are out there. A lot of us, we have small budgets. We're not able to go out and get that marketing, so this program would help facilitate that for us. And then also the mobile bus tour, and I'm going to let Will talk about that.
So Tennessee is already making a name for itself in innovation and entrepreneurship, and so we want to capitalize on that. We've got a lot of rural counties. A lot of the entrepreneurship that you hear about that's happening in the state is happening in the large urban areas. But there's some exciting things that are happening in the counties as well. We all know that the country mouse is just as smart as the city mouse. He might just not be exposed to as many things that are there. And so we want to do that. And what we want to do is, rather than establish facilities throughout all of these rural counties, why don't we take those services, those people, and that programming and put it on wheels and take the programming to where the people are. So with these 3 buses that we're proposing, one for each section of the state, we can roll up to the county fairs, to the festivals where people are already gathering, and we can talk to them about entrepreneurship. We can tell them about all of the innovation that is out there, and really spark some ideas. We can also roll up to chambers of commerce, and then the chambers will be able to use that. Of course, the chamber presidents are going to love that press hit that they're going to get. It's also good for the city and county mayors. It's a win for the citizens because they're going to get to learn about new technology and innovation they might not have known about. And it's going to be a win for the state because that means that these new ideas are going to spark new businesses, and that means more tax dollars to be able to fund great programs like this. Anything else to add on the rural education?
No, I think that's it.
All right. You can see some of the numbers that are there, and of course, we'll be available during lunch to be able to talk about this as well.
And I did want to add
Sure.
one thing, actually. The other thing that we really like about this particular proposal is, again, as I said earlier, we have a lot of agencies, a lot of service providers, but we really feel like this is going to help us work together better, because it's going to put that accountability in there. Some of the metrics, for example, that we have going into this particular one are the number of referrals from agency to agency. So we really want to work together more. And, you know, we do get into the tug of war over a client, like that's my client, that's your client. We want to serve the customer better. And we want to make it crystal clear where they need to go to get the help that they need when and where they need it quickly as possible. So to clarify things, and we really want to work together better as a group, as a collective in the state of Tennessee.
All right, so the third proposal that we have is Ag Launch, and so this is an ag tech incubator. My background is I actually have a degree in agriculture. I am the 6th generation to grow up on our farm there in Madison County. And then now I get to help entrepreneurs by working with the CO, which is one of the entrepreneur centers in the Launch Tennessee network that you might be familiar with. And then I also have started a small business where we work with entrepreneurs and help businesses with their websites, their applications, and brands. And so I understand, because of that agriculture heritage, how important agriculture is both to our history, our identity as a state, and also to our economy. So the Ag Launch program would be an accelerator, or an incubator, that would help generate, develop, and then scale up ag tech innovation ideas. And it's really all about the producers that are in this network and helping them. The statewide ag initiative is something that the governor has mentioned. He has a 10-year plan where he wants us to be the most diverse ag state in the nation. And so this would be one of the things that could help us reach that goal that we have there of that type of diversity. We would use existing, let me see, am I on the right slide here? There we go. We would use the existing networks that already exist, like the SBDC, the Extension, and others. We would also create some new networks where the farmers and the people in agriculture would be able to help one another and also get mentorship that is there. And then we want this to be a model. We want Tennessee to be a model for rural agriculture, for an innovation for all of the state that is there. We would create a council, and then that would allow us to attract talent from throughout the Southeast to come here and start their ag innovation idea here in Tennessee. We're planning on having 2 cohorts per year, and then you can see the cost that is on there, and that is the Ag Launch program. Yeah.
Fantastic. So next up is access to capital. Who doesn't want more money, right? There's never too many sources of capital when we're working with small businesses. Unfortunately, the statistic is still true that 80% of small businesses fail before they get to 5 years. And when you ask what is the number one reason, it's usually access to capital or lack of capital that's creating that. So we felt this was super important. And we came up with a solution. We looked at what was already out there as far as funding for small business owners, and you have this in your handouts, but we mapped it out, and we really wanted to look at that and see if there were any gaps. And we discovered that there were a couple of gaps that we needed to fill, and so we have proposed a couple of items for that. But we also noticed in our analysis that there are some programs that are already in place that are underutilized. And a great example of that, for example, is the SBIR, the TTR program. And if we really want to be that number one in diverse agriculture businesses, we need to have the most applications. And when we looked at the data, we are below average as far as the applications for this program. And the states that are performing well have a matching fund. So we would like to set that up for the state of Tennessee. So that's one big part of it. And again, this is all about increasing the survival rate of small businesses. When we have small business owners that are working with the universities and the educational institutions, that's going to increase their survival rate. So we definitely feel this is a good idea. The other program that I really like here on the slide is the Rural Opportunity Fund. This program has already been around since 2007, and we have had success with that. We've had over 100 businesses that have benefited from the program, over $20 million, so we would certainly like to refund that particular program. And then we wanted to fill gaps with a couple of new suggestions, but we also want to look at what other states are doing and what's working and put some money on that as well. And so the total investment here would be $50 million, but of course that's going to be leveraged and it's going to be matched with some private funding. So it's going to be very effective.
All right, the last proposal between you guys and lunch is going to be the Ag Enterprise Adjustment Fund. And we've already created, we know how the state loves their acronyms, and so we've already created an acronym for you, the A2F program. So we've got some great Ag Enterprise programs that are already happening in the state, and those programs would be eligible for some of the fast track dollars that are there for funding in training, infrastructure, and economic development. But because of the way that the legislation is worded, they might not be eligible. And so there are some gaps that are there that need to be filled in order for these Ag Enterprise programs to be able to get off the ground and really get going. There's some gaps that are in there. And so that's the reason that this is called an adjustment fund, so that we can kind of help fill some of those gaps that are there. So this is for Tier 3 and Tier 4 counties that we've been talking a good bit about. And you can see the eligible industries that are listed there on the screen. One of the things that's going to make sure that this stays ag-related is that 51% or more of the revenue has to come from ag-related industry. So that's going to make sure that we are filling the right gap with these dollars. And it must be a for-profit enterprise, has to be in Tennessee. And then the other thing is that, there are some funding details that are in the packet that you guys have there. So the funding for this would be $1 million a year, and that we're planning on the tax dollars coming from taxes that are already collected. And then what we would do is have that where the tax dollars that are already collected are going to these more distressed counties to help them with their economy that they have there. All right.
12 o'clock.
Yeah. So those are the proposals that we have for you. Is that the 5-minute warning or we're up? All right. See, we were done early on time here. So any questions that you guys have besides what are we having for lunch?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.